Hey, what's going on? This is Connor,
And this is John.
and today we're going to be talking about the 1937 movie, The Shadow Strikes.
The Shadow Strikes is one of, if not the earliest example of a superhero film that we have.
It's a far cry from the big movie masterpieces that we know today, like Avengers Endgame, some of the more recent ones. I mean, this is almost a movie from almost 100 years ago, right?
Almost, little over a decade, close to the 100-year mark. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
originally based on a popular radio show in Pulp magazine. It had been adapted before, I think, for short films, stuff along those lines, but it was pretty popular at the time.
I was pretty impressed. I was on YouTube when I was looking to watch the movie. I couldn't really find anywhere else that was streaming it, but I saw a lot of people in the comments saying that they had grown up listening to the radio, and I'm like, wow, man, like people really love this guy.
Yeah, I know. Just the fact you grew up listening to a radio program, and yet you're still on YouTube is pretty crazy itself.
Right.
But The Shadow stars Rod LaRoque, I think, maybe LaRoque. I can't really, I'm not sure how to say his name, but he is the Shadow, otherwise
Rod
known as,
LaRock Johnson.
yeah, exactly. Rod LaRoque Dwayne The Rock Johnson. His alternate name is Lamont Granston. And Rod actually has a star on the Hollywood Hall of Fame, funny enough.
Dude, I'm like, hold on. Is it Granston or Cranston? Because I saw a lot of people in the comments section roasting the paper for like why they put Granston.
Oh, no.
Cranston.
It's supposed to be Cranston, like Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like Bryan
Okay.
Cranston. I saw that. I thought it was Granston too. Like it wasn't until I was like scrolling down there and then I listened to one of the radio broadcasts. And yeah, they said Cranston, and I was like, oh man, here I am. I
You
thought it
know,
was Cranston, man.
Actually, now that you're saying that, I think I do remember seeing something online where, yeah, it was like in the movie itself, it was misspelled as well or something along those lines. So
Yeah, like there
you're
was
probably
something
right.
about this movie that it's so weird. Like there's some really diehard fans of this story, and like that comment section was a wealth of knowledge. Like there were all these people saying like, oh, Hollywood didn't want to touch this movie because they didn't know how like having him on screen would translate, and there's the Granston thing, and I saw some people say like, well, he never even like covers his face with a
Yeah.
scarf or anything. But I mean, other with all those faults aside, like you can really sort of see how this is like a progenitor of like a Batman kind of story. Like Lamont Cranston's father was, killed by the racketeers. He's got the British butler. What was his name? Henry.
Henry, yeah.
Yeah,
Die
and
Hard.
his superpower is just being really slick. You know what I mean? Like for
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a popular film. There was many sequels that were made afterwards. I think one of them was with Rod as well, but then the other ones were a little cheaper. They got someone else to play the main role. We're not gonna, spoiler, not gonna watch those, but this one definitely, I feel like the Shadow and the writer Walter Gibson, who actually, I mean, I would say everyone should look that guy up. He lived a pretty insane life. His Wikipedia article is full of crazy anecdotes about him learning like hypnosis and yoga and all this crazy stuff. But anyways,
wow, he's like the real life Batman.
yeah, exactly. And so he wrote The Shadow, and then he basically created, these archetypes of traits that we see all superheroes kind of have, which are like what the outfit, right? He
Yeah, the
definitely,
secret identities and things like that.
yeah, he changes into an outfit when he becomes the Shadow. He's got the sidekick in his butler Henry, who Batman, like you said later, would have Alfred. So there's a similarity right there. And then he's got the super villains. In this movie, his villain is just what, like basically a mobster that runs a casino.
Yeah, well, his villain is like the racketeer is a villain, but the real villain, like I think that gotcha at the end of all of it is such a weird twist ending. It's the racketeer's like right hand guy that's like, oh, like I wanted my son Warren Berenger to get some of the fortune, from the inheritance. So he was like gonna kill all these people, but it's like it's all the way at the end that we find that out. You know what I mean? Like the very,
Yeah.
very end.
Yeah. Watching it, I was definitely like, there are some twists and some turns, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know. It's definitely a pretty crazy film, I guess, for its time, more than likely. Obviously, it's tame in comparison to what we deal with now, but
Yeah.
it definitely has its moments. Anyways, we can go ahead and let's just go ahead and recap through the movie real quick. Basically, the movie begins, right? And we have some guys. Well, it technically begins with Lamont and Henry, right? Like,
Yeah, they're talking about how he wants to find his father's killer and talking about how great his father was as a lawyer.
yeah, you definitely are kind of thrown into it. Like, I don't have any recollection. I've never listened to the fucking Shadow on, the radio, and I've never read it in a comic either, so I don't know any backstory. So I was a little confused. I was like, who are these guys? Because then it goes right into the safe crackers that are cracking into the other lawyer's safe,
Red
right?
Hogan and his little pal Stevie.
Yeah, yeah. Dang, got their names down.
Well,
So
the cop comes in and he says it in like this really cool accent. Like,
yeah, that cop. Are you talking about the main guy?
I think it's no, it's his homie. Like the main guy comes in, but he like gives him this really like folksy. Well, if it isn't Red Hogan, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they know who he is, right?
Yeah,
They're
right. Like Red Hogan, you don't get a name like Red Hogan, and people don't know who you are.
totally okay. So the Shadow comes in, no mask, like we said before. He's kind of just like grabbed his overcoat collar and placed it over his face. He's got he's got a gun, and he basically sticks up the safe robbers and calls the cops. And then the cops come, right? And then they catch him in the act of being still in the office because he doesn't leave. He's like still trying to find more clues, I guess.
Hmm. And that's when the plot kind of starts. He impersonates this guy Chester Randall, the lawyer, and in the midst of this act that he has with the policeman, he gets a call from one of Chester Randall's clients, who is the Delphin, the
Rich guy.
the rich guy.
Guys, he's rich as fuck, dude. That's all I know.
He is
Yeah,
so rich. Like, dude, at the end, they say the estate is worth like 800 million or 8 million.
yeah.
It's 8 million. It's not 800 million.
In 1937. Anyway, so yeah, it's probably like 8 million. Yeah, the cops, he's like takes the call, right? And the one main cop is like, oh, well, I guess I'll go with you. So the cop's caring, right? He's got some kind of idea that maybe I shouldn't just believe this guy who just says he happens to be the Randall that the office belongs to. And then the cop goes along with him to the rich dude's house. He gets there and then he's like, oh, so you're Mr. Randall? And the rich dude's butler's like, oh, yeah, this is Randall. All right, come on in. And the cop's like,
Right.
yeah, you're right. All right, I believe you now because someone else said
I
you're
remember.
yeah. And then yeah,
Okay.
then he goes in, and then what's fucked up is that he's like pretending to be a lawyer. Like this dude's asking for actual legal advice.
I think he is a lawyer.
Oh,
Like
is he?
Lamont, yeah, Lamont Cranston is a lawyer.
Okay, that makes more
Because
sense.
in the beginning, he's like, my dad was like the greatest lawyer, and that's why he got killed by the racketeers.
Okay, that makes way more sense because I was like, dude, this is fucked up. He's all, yeah, I'll get that shit signed up right now. Fuck your
It's
daughter,
just,
dude.
I don't know.
Yeah, sounds right. I think that's exactly what we're gonna do.
I
Um,
think when he tells him, he's like reading the will, and he's all like, oh, this goes to my last surviving heir. And he's just like, dude, just be specific. Like, name the person, like, weirdo.
I know. Stop being so mysterious.
Yeah, right. And he's all like, oh, right after he tells him that, he's like, oh, well, I think I'm gonna, I think someone's trying to kill me.
and then bam, he gets shot.
Yeah, right.
Like a super good sniper shot from I don't even understand where to this. Like, can you actually maybe who is the killer of the old man
The you know what? I don't know if we ever directly know. I think it's those dudes like
that
it's
got
those
caught later on?
yeah, yeah, like after they take Jasper, I think it's those two dudes, like the hired thugs, Brosmer.
The old man gets blasted, pop, pop. Uh, the dude, the shadow, runs out, doesn't even find anyone. Doesn't he, for being as good of a hero as he supposedly is, isn't able to like catch up to these guys. Comes
Nah, man.
comes back in. The guy's dead. And the one of the nephews is like, oh, I guess I better call the cops. And that same detective comes and is like, oh, what the, like you're dealing with another murder, or well, I guess the first one was a robbery, but now it's a murder. And still, though, doesn't arrest the shadow even for questioning. You know what I
Doesn't
mean?
even
Just
detain him.
doesn't even detain him, just
Yeah.
lets him go about his way again.
Well, like, think about it at the beginning with Red Hogan and his little pal Stevie. They were literally just like, get out of here. Like I don't even know if they took him anywhere. They just told him to get out of there. And then that's when the detective went back into the office.
Didn't they at least arrest him?
Dude, it didn't look like it to me. Like they just walked him down the hallway, dude.
Dang. Well, yeah, and then they just give him a
The
smack on the
cops
back
in
of the
this
head.
movie just don't just don't do it, man. But like, you know what else I noticed though? There's like the journalists, right, that come in right after Delton is dead, and the way that the movie, like the way that they write the journalists makes them seem like these super indifferent to death people. You know what I mean? They're just like hyped for the
Yeah,
story. They're just like, what's up with it? Like
definitely like ambulance chasers, right? Like wherever the death is, they just want to be there, and they're snapping photos of the dead bodies or
yeah,
whatever it
right.
is that's there. They don't give a fuck. And the
Like there,
cops suck, dude. They don't give a fuck either.
there's a weird tone of like how the rich people operate and how like the working people operate.
Yeah, I guess it's the 30s, right? The Great
Yeah.
Depression. So we end up finding another. So we meet the niece afterwards, right? And then later on, we meet the other nephew with the the glasses who gets arrested for killing his uncle,
Winston.
Winston. Yes.
Winston. I think it's Winstead.
No, is it?
Yeah, Winston. I thought it was Winston too, but then like I looked up all the names. I think it's Winstead.
Wow, that's a terrible name.
I mean, 1930, that was like, you know,
It's a great name.
I don't know, dude.
It's the best name everyone wanted.
They're like, damn, I wish my name was Winstead. I had to be born Humphrey.
Yeah, exactly. Humphrey was a popular name as well, though.
Yeah, didn't we have a president? That was
Hubert Humphrey.
Hubert Humphrey, that was his last name.
Yeah,
What's a
yeah.
better name though, Humphrey or Hubert?
Humphrey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Hubert.
Totally. Yeah. So they arrest Winstead because he seems to be the only person that could possibly have killed his uncle. Really, all they have on him is that he was wandering around outside, which a bunch of people were. So they really just seem to want this guy to be a bad dude. But anyways, they arrest him, and then they go and finally cut to the actual racketeer guy, the fat dude that's in the back of the casino with all the money all the time. And I feel like
he's like a typical 30s stereotype.
Exactly. Like if
Big
you think
dude
of
in the back with all the money.
yep, and he's the mobster, right? I mean, they all look like that as far as I know. And so then that's basically it for a while. We get back to the other nephew, and he ends up sleeping with I think the niece walks in on his room, and then the other nephew walks in on the room, and he's sleeping with a gun by his side. So obviously there's all this devious workings going on between the nephew, the mob boss, the uncle,
Dude,
the niece, everyone seems to be a little guilty.
Jasper, the nephew with the gun though, he is probably my favorite character just for the fact that when he needs like 11 grand, dude, to like pay Prosper back, and he goes to Winston after they let him out, and he's like, hey, I need $11,000. And he's like, yeah, well, where are you going to get it? And he's like, now look, don't give me a lecture. What I need is that money. Like, he just tells him, like, nah, dog, just give me the money. Like,
And then ends up shooting him.
no, he doesn't shoot him. It
Yeah,
looks like he shoots him, but he doesn't shoot him.
he kills Winstead.
No, he doesn't, dude. I know like for sure he doesn't kill Winston, dude.
What do you mean? That's
He
what they call the
pulls
cops
the
again.
gun on him. Yeah, like he pulls the gun on him, right? And he's like threatening Winstead. He's like, hey, bro, like give me that money. Like I'm gonna shoot. But what happens is like Brosmer, right? He's got probably the same dude that killed the main homie Delphin, and he kills Winstead. And the reason that he's killing Winstead is because Brosmer is owed all that money from Jasper. And since Jasper's the next one in the inheritance chain, Brosmer's like, I'm about to collect and then some.
Mm, gotcha.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes more sense. I guess I missed that part.
Yeah, like Jasper's all like tripping, like he's pointing a gun at him and he's dead, and everyone's like, hey, like you totally shot him. And because it was the 30s, like people were listening to him when he was like, oh no, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember him saying that and like looking at the gun, like, oh, there's no way. I didn't even pull the trigger.
yeah, he's like, I just tried to make Winston do something for me. Like, admitting that, like, yeah, I extorted him, but I didn't kill him.
Well, I mean, the guy's definitely got a gambling addiction. So
Oh, for
he's
sure,
he's got
dude.
problems, man. 10 G's back then.
Alcoholic.
What's the inflation of $10,000 in from 1937? I'm gonna look it up real
You
quick.
look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know what also is crazy is that everyone just smokes. It doesn't matter. When another question, when did people start realizing that smoking kills?
Oh man, probably the 50s, like after World War II. I think that's probably before that, dude. People probably knew about like that for what I mean? Because like if cigarette smoke and the adverse effects of it or anything like how we did, environmental issues, people have been talking
Mhm.
about that for like almost 100 years, and people are just like, I don't care.
So you're saying people knew, they just didn't give a fuck.
Like people knew, yeah, they just didn't care. Like they were just whatever. Like I think in the 50s, that's when people were really like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
kids are
can't.
seeing advertisements, and like kids think smoking is like really cool, but it gives you cancer, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it like makes it like stunts your growth in like all these bad ways and shit.
Yeah, the shadow doesn't care because when he finally meets up with the mobster, right? They're like, "Want a drink?" And he's all, "No, but I'll take a cigarette."
Yeah, yeah, gotta keep his wits about him.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I looked it up. So 10 G's in 1937 is the equivalent to $189,585.42 in
So
2021.
like rounded up, that's like 200,000.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, he owes about
So
200K to this mobster guy, which is a lot of money, man, to just be
dude,
borrowing from a mobster.
yeah, right. I would never.
You would never do that?
Not, dude.
No, I go to
That's
the
a deal with the
casino.
devil, man.
I spend $20 at a casino and I'm like, I lose it and I just feel like, fuck, dude, I could have bought so much else without that, with the $20 other than wasting it here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're also not gonna like march up to your cousin and be like, "Hey, I need $11,000 and I don't want to lecture."
Yeah, I just need the money.
Yeah, right. Like, if you don't, I'm gonna pull a gun on you.
Yeah. So let's talk about Henry for a second, man. He's the sidekick of the Shadow and pretty solid for an initial sidekick, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I thought a lot about the character of Alfred, or how we saw the character of Alfred in the Nolan trilogy, and I think you can really see kind of a difference of time where you see that the Nolan Alfred, he was like in what was it? He was in special forces or like the SAS or something like that.
Sometimes they just want to see the world burn.
But so he's like got a military background, but I think Henry, like all we really find out about him in this movie is that he used to work for the telephone company.
So I did a little research though, and
Mhm.
Henry initially was a guy that was going to hang himself, and the shadow, or hang himself or jump off a building, can't remember. And the shadow saves him.
Oh
And
man.
from there, he's just like devoted to him. And the shadow's like, sure, I'll use you. I guess he looks like he lives with them and stuff, so it gives him a place to be.
Yeah. Dang. Dang, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know
So, but
what? In
what?
anything that you read, did you see? Because one of the other big connections I saw between the character and like Batman was that like the Shadow never actually kills anybody in this movie.
No, he doesn't even really punch anyone. He just kind of shows up with his gun.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, does he wait? Does he shoot it at the end? Oh no, everyone else is shooting. He just kind of ducks out of the way, huh?
Yeah, the so Brosmer's like right hand guy like goes to he kind of finds out the whole thing. He's like, oh, Chester Randall, it's Lamont Cranston, and I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna go kill him. And he's over there and he's like hiding. It's the 30s, so they got these like really long drapes and stuff, and he's hiding in between the drapes, and like Brosmer comes in and they just start shooting, like, because Brosmer's here to kill
Yeah.
Cranston, the other guy's here to kill Cranston. Cranston's like, hey, like he's here, like, and they start shooting.
Yeah. And then at the end, everyone who needs to die dies. And the shadow, even though the police they like catch him again, that same cop, but he's just like, oh, but you've been helping us the whole time. So whatever, man.
Well, dude, what
Get,
would you do if somebody impersonated you and they like solved a crime as yourself? Because at the end, the real Chester Randall comes back and he's like, well, you impersonated me, went through my personal belongings, and like, you know what I mean? Did a
yeah.
whole bunch of invasions of privacy, but you solved these crimes, like, good for you.
I think he says something along the lines of, you made my name look good. So all right.
Right?
Because it was technically Chester Randall who solved the crime, right? So he takes credit a little bit, but
There you go.
yeah. So I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah, what's
And
up?
the first one is, do you think this movie was good? And what would you give it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Full disclosure, this is not the first time I've tried to watch this movie. And I think that by about, I think it was like this was the fourth time I watched it, and I would say it's good. You know what I mean? I like being able to watch something that is like slower paced. I think the genre of noir is something that like couldn't you could have it today. I just think that the audience expects a lot. Like there's a speed to which people want superhero or action movies to go. Like we don't really have detective movies anymore. We just have action movies. But I mean, I would say it's probably like a 6 as far as a movie goes. Like there's a lot of times where it's just not really adding up. Like I said, I had to watch it like 4 times to get what was going on. Like
Yeah.
there's no backstory on anyone. Like everyone's kind of a one-dimensional character. That's another thing that I thought a lot about too. Like you have somebody like Thanos, which is this super complicated, extreme traditionalist sort of person, I guess, which has a lot of these moral and philosophical questions. And
Yeah,
then you have
yeah, yeah. But I
somebody
mean,
like Jasper, which is just like I like gambling and I like drinking. Like,
it's like apples and oranges, right?
yeah, exactly. Like it's not fair to compare. I just think that like there's a difference in what what we expect as fans and as viewers, you know what I mean, like compared to a time back then when media was there and it was still a big part of people's lives, but it was like the stories are a little bit more, they've gotten a little bit more rounded out as time has gone on, if that
I
makes sense.
I personally think, yeah, it makes sense. I personally would give this a 5.5 because I also had to watch it a few times just to pay attention enough, and I also had to like watch it as if I was studying it. Like
Yeah.
it was a project just to make sure I really was able to speak to it. And
Totally, totally.
even then, I was still zoning out every now and then. I
I
think,
had a Shutter ad come on in the middle
yeah,
of it, and I got so pumped. Like I watched that whole ad, dude, because I
it's
was
something
like,
different.
yeah, just something fast. You know what I mean? Something that I'm used to.
It is only an hour long, give or take a few minutes. So it's not like it's all crazy of a commitment. I just think that a lot of times, and maybe this is a controversial opinion, but a lot of times we're told we should appreciate movies just because they're old. And I think that that's not necessarily true. And what's good is good, and what's bad is bad, regardless of these other defining traits. But yeah, it wasn't terrible. That's why I give it the 5.5. No,
Yeah,
just
like if I feel like if somebody made a movie today that had, like, how do I put it? Like if it was narratively the same, like it would kind of get shit on. You know what I mean? Like people would be like, "What? This doesn't make any sense." Like if you release something like that today, and I think it's like different, like then because it's just like a cool movie.
yeah. All right. Question number two. Is the Shadow a cool hero? I think I can go first. I think that this version of him is very basic. Like we said, he doesn't even cover his face. He doesn't have a mask. I know later on he gets kind of like a red scarf that he covers his face with. There will actually be a movie we'll be watching a long ways down the line. I think it was from the 90s where Alec Baldwin is actually the Shadow. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so we'll be able to revisit this at some point, see what the update is. But as of right now, in this one film, it is basic, man. It's literally just any Joe Schmo who has, like, he's a lawyer, right? So he's got some kind of knowledge of law and law enforcement. So he's able to just literally lie his way into all these situations,
Yeah, it's kind of like
impersonate
having 10
people.
charisma on a role playing game, you
Yeah,
know, and not really anything else.
he's
Um,
got he's got some skill in maybe making a plan or two. He like
yeah,
wiretaps them sort of that one time when he leaves that phone off the hook at the windowsill of the mobster.
that's
Um,
true.
some stuff maybe without his homie Henry, he probably would have a little less success, but overall he's okay. I do think that, I cannot wait. I feel like every movie is going to get better, right? Because it's going to be just an improvement over, what a hero is and what we expect as viewers.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like the Shadow is a cool, is a cool hero. I just think that in this particular movie, we're not getting all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Okay. Question number three. What do you think about the actor? That's like probably one of the biggest questions that we'll probably revisit these like almost every movie we watch, right? Because without a good actor as your hero, it just falls flat. It sucks. We've seen it before. So do you think that Rod was a good Lamont Cranston, aka the Shadow?
Yeah, I thought that he was really good. At the beginning of the movie, I thought to myself, like, wow, this could be somebody that plays like Bruce Wayne's dad.
Yeah. Okay. Wouldn't that be cool if we were watching or reading the Batman and it turned out his dad was a super? Well, isn't that is that already a plot line? I think it is.
I'm sure it is in some writing.
Thomas Wayne is like the Red Hood or some shit like that.
Yeah, something like that. And if it's not, like you heard it here.
Yeah, pay me my money. But yeah, you could see it is beginners. I think Batman definitely came out probably not far after this, and there was they made Batman, what do you call them, like serials and stuff like that. So that were live action as well. So it definitely inspired it. I think just the lack of the mask, just you can't
Yeah.
help but just be like, this is the dumbest shit ever.
Yeah, right. It's all hype, dude. Like it's all hype. You're waiting for.
He literally has to have the shadows. Otherwise, you're just gonna be like, wait, aren't you Chester Randall or aren't you Lamont Cranston?
I mean, he fooled you there, dude.
Yeah, he did. At the end of the day, he fooled me. So I guess it works.
Yeah, right. It's just weird though, because yeah, like you're saying, like those bank robbers, if they knew anything about him at all, they could just be like, oh, hey, you're Lamont Cranston, like,
Yeah, if his dad was that good of a lawyer, people probably know who his son is.
right?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
You had one job as a superhero.
Wear a
Keep your
scarf.
Yeah, wear a scarf, wear
Wear
a
a
mask.
scarf.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to make special mention of what I think is the most monotone and funny breakup in movie history. Like that towards the end scene where Marsha and Berenger like break up, like Marsha breaks up with Berenger.
Man, I do not recall.
Like she tells him these things about like because in the movie she's like, oh, like kind of avoiding him, and it's heavily implied that it's because she's digging on Cranston.
Yeah.
And she tells him all these things, and he goes, oh, Marsha, like you're talking like it's the end for you and me. And she goes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And his response is just, oh.
Yeah. You know what I thought was funny was their uncle dies and then their cousin dies, Winstead, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At the end, they're just like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like,
Yeah.
nothing happened. I
No
guess,
funeral.
yeah, nothing. I guess just because they get the money at the end, right? But
Dude. What about there's this one scene, and it's when the hired thug goes to Marsha's to find the will, and there's a cop at the house, and this dude shoots the cop, and all the cop does is like drop his gun, and he just like kind of dusts his wrist, like rubs his wrist. Like, you know,
yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
he just like he got shot, and he just like rubs his wrist, dude.
Like shot him in the arm, right?
Yeah, well, like shot him to like, dude, a gun like that, like, you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah. Definitely would do a lot of damage compared
this
to.
dude's just like rubbing his wrist and like, you know, no
I mean,
pain.
I wonder if there's like movie standards that we just don't know that they had to like live by, where like,
Oh yeah,
don't fight
can't
too
be
much,
too violent.
don't shoot too much, just a little bit, man. We just need to make a family film here or something like
Yeah,
that.
right.
All right. And I think that's all we have for today's show. Thanks for listening. My name's John,
This is Connor.
and we'll see you next time.
Later.
Do, 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 do. Okay.